Welcome back to the Power of Coffee. This is the remaining part of the 110th page. Okay, so let's continue with the story. Now we know that Madeleine Boyson is in Canada. She's met with Rob, who is the owner of the apartment she's living in Canada. So let's continue the story from there. Okay, so they exchanged pleasantries, and then he took hold of her luggage. After showing her to her room, he introduced the magazines to her, and then told her about the fresh grilled chicken he had bought for her, in addition to the drinks and groceries. It's all yours, so feel free to take whatever you want, he said, and then she chuckled, and consequently left the room to see the preparations he had made for her. Wow, a whole chicken. Okay, bon appetit, she remarked, looking into the freezer, and then chuckled. 20 minutes later, she was alone. He left after ensuring that everything was all right. The lights were on, the water was still flowing, the internet was operational, and the locks on the main door were working all right. He left her with a hotline for a clinic in the neighborhood, and the number of a restaurant, as well as the cleaner's number. Her name was Sophie Legrand, and she lived nearby. She was 20 years old and a part-time student. Rob showed Madeleine a clear-faced picture of her from his phone. It was a headshot he had recently taken of her for the women who booked the apartment. It was a headshot he had recently taken of her for the women who booked the apartment. It was a headshot he had recently taken of her, that is Sophie Legrand, the cleaner, a headshot he had taken of her for the women who booked the apartment. She was a cleaner for the women, and for the men he had a male cleaner. Madeleine commended him for that, ensuring the safety of his employees. Madeleine commended him for that, ensuring the safety of his employees, as well as guests. Since meeting Rob online a few days ago, she felt free of pain. She felt free of the pain of losing Lamley. At first she didn't want to accept the feeling, as it made her feel guilty. How could she be happy when her friend had just passed? Wasn't she planning on finding out how she died? Was this trip to Canada a way to find the truth, or was it to forget the pain? She questioned herself, but later she gave in, because she realized that in order to help Lamley, she had to be in her right mind. She couldn't be disturbed. Her judgment could not be clouded by grief. After Rob had left, she got a drink from the fridge, and then picked up one of the family-themed magazines and sat down in the couch at the living room to read. She found a story on the 4th page that struck her attention. It was a history of a First Nation woman of the Inuit tribe who left her native home of Nunavut and settled in Toronto. And there she set up a world-famous clothing shop where all the clothes were hand-woven by a small team of family members. This was in 1958. Her story began when a Christian evangelist and his wife visited her hometown and met with her family, which consisted of her parents, siblings, uncles, aunts, and all the extensions. Subsequently, his wife took an interest in her occupation as a weaver of clothing and carpet. She got some of her woven clothes to friends back home in Toronto, and then they began to place orders for it. Through the evangelist's wife. Okay, so where we are now in the story, we are talking about Madeleine. She's moved to the apartment in Canada so she could get back Lamley's body home, and also so she could find out what really happened to her to cause her demise. Now we are talking about Madeleine reading a magazine, okay? And in the magazine, the story she got for the magazine is about a First Nation woman somewhere in Canada. So that's where we are now. Okay, eventually, the indigenous woman thought it was a good idea to establish a clothing shop in the mainland, prompted to do so by the evangelist's wife. She moved there with 3 sisters and 3 female cousins, with the help of the evangelist and his wife. After 3 months of continuous weaving, they displayed their first collection of shawls, skirts, straight dresses, and some table covers. They went on to set up a school for training ordinary people, both men and women, on their style of weaving. Okay, so this marks the end of the end of page 110 of The Power of Coffee, okay? This is page 110 of The Power of Coffee. I'll be back for the next 10 pages to make it 120. So see you then.